Sylvia Alice Lwowski was a 22-year-old from Staten Island, New York. She was born in West Germany and had gotten a biology degree. On September 6th, 1975, Sylvia went with her fiancé to the movies, after which they had an argument. Sylvia ran off. She was never seen again. I'm Ed Dentzel, and this is Unfound. Have you ever played the devil's advocate in a discussion? Your friends or family are having some deep talk about politics, religion, Nickelback, whatever. And you take a contrarian point of view just to see how everyone will react. This can be a dangerous ploy. Who knows what kind of plates, vases, and pillows you might have to dodge when claiming, "Oh yeah, Nickelback is awesome." Well, for disappearances, the same can happen. Hey, what if a cult kidnapped Jason Jolkowski? Hey, what do you think about Mara Murray joining a convent? Hey, Brian Schaefer is still stuck in a wall at the Ugly Tuna. But sometimes the opinion doesn't have to be so out there. It's possible that Brianna Maitland really did take off all on her own. I don't think anyone kidnapped Mark Heimbaugh. Audrey Herron hasn't been found because she wrecked taking a different route that night. Well, with Sylvia Lwowski, Unfound's history says we should think one way. But I think many of you will think another, for the sake of argument. And now a summary of the case. Sylvia Lwowski started her life in West Germany. Yep, kids, Germany used to be split. At a young age, she, her parents, and her brother moved to the United States. Yet Sylvia retained a bit of her German accent. This caused a bit of a problem for her, and some kids made fun of her. Yet Sylvia persevered. Yes, she was introverted, but Sylvia was in the band, she had boyfriends, and Sylvia and her best friend even ran their own business during the summer. Eventually, Sylvia got a biology degree from Wagner University and at the same time met her fiancé Charles. They were due to be married in 1976. So, on the evening of September 6th, 1975, Sylvia and Charles had a date planned. He picked her up at about 6 p.m. They were to go to the movies and maybe got dinner as well. However, after the film, the two had an argument, the topic of which is still unknown to this day. Charles claimed Sylvia was so upset that she jumped out of the car and refused to go home with him. Charles drove to Sylvia's friend's nearby house and asked her and her father to go to the bus stop where Charles believed Sylvia was waiting. The two did as Charles asked, but Sylvia wasn't there. She was never seen again. There have never been any coordinated searches done for Sylvia. But curiously, the glasses Sylvia would have needed to safely walk at night were still in Charles's car. Anyone familiar with most of Unfound's episodes knows we've been presented with cases like Sylvia's a few times, but still, we must eventually judge each disappearance on its own merits by looking at the person first, then the circumstances. Contemplate what the deciding factors are for you in cases such as these, while you also try to answer these three questions during the interview. Number 1, why has Charles never revealed why the two got into that argument? Number 2, would Sylvia really toss her glasses up onto the dashboard of the car if she needed them to safely walk, especially at night? And number 3, what exactly are the odds of someone abducting Sylvia as she stood alone on the side of the road? Sylvia's friends and remaining family are split on what they think happened to her. The guest for this episode is Sylvia's best friend at the time, Mary. Unfound News. With the help of assistant Emily, the newest Unfound Now is out. I analyzed the November 2025 disappearance of Alicia Lwowski. Check it out on Unfound's YouTube channel. Next, for all you Patreon and YouTube supporters, the newest Found episode is also out. I did something a little different to start 2026. Finally, also check out the new site missingpersonsconsultant.com. Pass the word around. A reminder that there will be a summation after the following interview, but if you'd like to hear more of my in-depth analysis into the disappearance of Sylvia Lwowski, please go to patreon.com/Unfound Podcast, sign up, and partake in the Unfound blog. I'm so happy to have on this episode of Unfound one of Sylvia Lwowski's best friends, Mary. Mary, welcome to Unfound.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
And I'm happy you're here as well. Everybody should know that I found Mary. Mary, you've done some, you have spoken about Sylvia's disappearance in the past to media, right? I think that's how you and I first met.
Yes, through the local Staten Island Advance that published on Staten Island.
Right. Well, let's, Mary, once again, we'll get into that in a moment, but just tell the listeners just a little bit about yourself. Whatever, I'm not forcing you to, but maybe, just a little bit about yourself, just to give yourself a little background so everybody can get to know you a little bit.
Okay, well, I grew up on Staten Island in New York, which is where this whole disappearance occurred. Sylvia and I met in 5th grade, and she had a little bit of an accent because she grew up for the formative years in Germany. And we just hit it off. I don't know, you click.
Yeah.
And all through grammar school, we attended the same school. High school, we went our different ways because my parents wanted me to get a Catholic education, and but they had to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I knew about that every time I got a bad mark. But and Sylvia went to the local public school, but we remained friends all the way through the day she disappeared.
Wow. Did you live close to you went to high school or went to you met in 5th grade? Did you live close to each other, like a couple blocks away? Certainly if you go to same high schools, but you maybe still lived close to each other?
Well, yeah, we lived close enough by bicycle. It was about a mile, a little over a mile.
Okay.
So I would ride to her house, she would ride to my house. Staten Island was very different back then. You could ride on a lot of the local streets and even the double lane roads and not have an issue. But I wouldn't ride there now on a bicycle.
Okay. All right. And looking back at it now, of course, we're talking about a disappearance that is 50 years old now, which even in Unfound's world is fairly old. You may not know this, Mary. I'll tell you right now, usually about the average age of a disappearance we feature on Unfound is about 23 years old. So, going back 50 years, we don't do it very often, but we have done it, before. But looking back now, 50 years or even further back, what do you think it was about you and Sylvia that kind of just clicked back then?
We had a lot of the same likes. Mm-hmm. And she was interested in a lot of the things that I was interested in, but she lived more towards the beach area, and I lived on the other side of the boulevard, so my parents were afraid of crossing the big streets, when we were kids.
Yeah.
So when we would be together, we'd do a lot of things. We'd go down to the beach and we'd train for horseshoes. Not horseshoes. Yeah.
Horseshoe crabs?
Seahorses.
Seahorses.
There was a lot of horseshoe crabs, yeah.
Yeah, seahorses, okay.
She had a saltwater tank. So she was very much into, I guess, aquatic stuff,
Yeah.
And not having that in my own house, it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was interested in other things. I raised German Shepherds at a young age. We had German Shepherds that we bred.
Neat.
And she would be over my house for those events,
She loved the puppies, all the puppies running around.
Yeah. She had 3 dogs of her own.
Oh, wow. Did her family ever get one of your dogs?
No.
Okay.
Her mother and father liked smaller dogs.
Okay.
And they had basically a little farm in the backyard. They had some ducks. They had some geese. And a farm. I mean, her parents were big into growing your own stuff.
Maybe it's just me, but it's interesting to me that, of course, we were just talking before we started. Her last name is Lwowski. Is that German? Is it Polish? And maybe it is German, and you're raising German Shepherds, but her family's like, no, we're not. We're not interested in German Shepherds. There's some sort of irony to that, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, there is. You're right. You're right.
Okay. All right. So you two are good friends, and maybe I need to get into that a little bit more regarding Sylvia. So was one of her parents American, or?
Yes, her dad was. He was in the service, and he met her mother in Germany.
Great. Okay, so that explains that. But unfortunately, you had to be maybe sad about that, being that, you, I guess, had to go to a Catholic school. That must have been a little difficult. I'm sure you two would have chosen to go through high school together as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We were both in the orchestra in our junior high school, and Sylvia played the piccolo, and I played the French horn. And that much I really miss, because when there would be football games at the high school, the marching band was always there.
Yeah.
So I missed out on that, but can't bite City Hall, as they say.
Right. If your parents are paying, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Exactly.
When I went to college, I was under a similar situation, so I can relate. All right. So you got unfortunately split up, but like you said, you two had a very strong bond. And, Mal, riding a bike, that's not that big of a deal. You were able to stay close. And, of course, she maybe continued to make friends, but you stayed very close right through high school. I think that obviously you two really, cared for each other. What then happened? Of course, you maybe both graduate. Maybe then have more time to see each other or hang out. Maybe you have boyfriends or whatever. What can you say about that time?
When we graduated high school, Sylvia went to Wagner College, which is on Staten Island, and I went to Staten Island Community College. Okay. And her college was located up the hill, and at the bottom of the hill was where I went to school. Mm-hmm. So we would either, I had a car, so I would drop her off, and she'd walk up the hill, or if there was time, if I wasn't late for class, I'd take her, up the hill, quick make a U-turn, and head back down and try to find a parking space for my car.
Yeah. Right.
And the whole, and she was in the band again in college, and she was in a sorority, and they had the band sorority was located on one of the floors in the dormitories. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'd hang out up there. Nobody needed an ID to walk in and out and at that time. Now you can't get on a college campus without an ID.
For sure. And I guess Sylvia kind of vouched for you. Hey, this is my friend from school, from the neighborhood, and you could go onto the Wagner campus and hang out with her sorority women or whoever else.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
It was fun. As a matter of fact, it came in a little handy after she disappeared. College was just filling up at that point. But she had graduated, and so did I. But the security guard in the lobby didn't know that I wasn't there anymore. So I just walked in and said, "Hey, how you doing? I'm going up to 13, you know."
Wow.
And I took her mother up to see, you know, if we could find out anything if she was there.
Right. Yeah, and, you were it's like you went to school there. You could just walk right on there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, neat.
I could get into the music room, and I could get, different places. And vice versa. If she was early and she walked down the hill, she waited for me, and she walked right into my campus.
Yeah, of course. Maybe we should talk a little bit about that. Maybe we need to talk about the rest of Sylvia's family. Of course, you just mentioned her mother going onto campus with her. Maybe can relate. I think her parents are long time deceased now, but maybe you can talk a little bit about them if you got to know them. And I think that Sylvia has at least one sibling as well. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, she had a brother, and there was a 6-year age difference. Her brother was her younger brother, and we kind of clicked on that too, because I have a brother, only he's 6 years older than me. So, we kind of had that going on.
Yeah.
Her mother was very, very charming woman, but a hard worker.
Yeah.
She always was out in the yard, providing the vegetables and whatnot, getting the garden ready, getting the animals ready, feeding the ducks, feeding the chickens. It was different back then.
Yeah.
Now I don't think they're allowed to have it in a residential area.
Yeah. On Staten Island especially, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And her dad was conventional. He worked hard. Actually, he worked at Wagner College, and that was one of the reasons why Sylvia went there, because she got a reduced
nice
tuition.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So, and he had a lovely car. It was like a boat. He had a 59 Plymouth.
Oh my goodness! Big. Yes.
Had the wings.
Yeah. Yes.
Or the fins, or whatever you want to call them.
Yes. The design at the time. Yes.
And they were great.
Mm-hmm.
They welcomed me into their home like I was a family member, and vice versa in my house.
Okay. And so her mother, her father was in the service, and her mother was German?
Yes.
All right, so her mother had like a pretty thick German accent, was raised in Germany, I guess.
Yeah. When she'd say the word uniform, she would say uniform.
Oh, yeah.
So you had to really listen to her if you wanted to understand her.
But she could speak English.
Yes.
Okay.
A lot better than some people that live there.
Right. Okay, that's funny. All right, yes. And of course she probably spoke English better than you or Sylvia. Or did Sylvia speak German?
Proper English.
Did Sylvia speak German?
Yeah, she did a little bit, but she understood a lot. She kind of lost it after coming to the United States.
Yeah.
And it was that's part of the reason I think I became friends with her at a young age, because kids can be cruel.
They can be.
And they would would make fun of her accent.
Yeah. It is weird. It is weird how that is, because as kids that you think that's weird, but as adults, at least these days, you run into somebody, an adult that speaks English, but there's some sort of accent, whether German or whatever else, and it's like, oh well, that's interesting. Tell me a little bit more about that. you know, but as kids, yes, kids are different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's I guess because we just clicked, you know.
Yeah.
I would stick up for her. She really wasn't as outgoing, unfortunately, as I was.
Okay.
You know, so if we would go out someplace and she wanted to do something, she'd say, ask them if we could, you know, she wouldn't ask. She'd make me ask. So.
I should ask, was this just a duo here, or was there like a little group that you ran around in? I'm not looking for any name. Please don't mention any names, because you know they're not asking to be mentioned here. But I'm just wondering, was there like 4 or 5 young women who hung out together? Or was it just mainly you two?
No, it's just the 2 of us.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. And then I guess
I had more friends than she did, but
she
you
did.
know, I guess because she found it difficult to talk to people. I don't know.
Okay.
Trying to think about it, you know, I never really thought about it.
That's fine. So she's going to Wagner. She gets out of high school. She's going to Wagner. Her father is a professor there, like you said. That's a nice... And, of course, Wagner University, very well thought of, very high standards, you know, at least my impression of it.
Right.
You know, pretty... Not Ivy League, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, he wasn't a professor, though. He worked there. He was in... part of maintenance.
Oh, he was.
Keeping up all the buildings, the yards, and the grounds, and all of that.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clearing that up. All right. So you worked there still. You get the discount. She gets to go there. She was living on campus, though, even though the school was still in Staten Island.
No, she lived at home.
Okay.
But she had access to the sorority floor, you know.
Okay.
And she was there all the time.
Okay. All right. Thank you for... All right. So she's commuting and going there. So, of course, she was only 22 when she went missing. Yep. But we still have to start, you know, we have to start thinking, well, we're talking about college. We're getting close to the disappearance time. But there's still some things that need to be covered here. First of all, of course, the man that was in her life, of course, he was there the night that she went missing. We'll get into that, you know, eventually, of course. Do you remember how they met? Do you remember meeting him? What were your impressions? Once again, your opinion, your insight all these years later.
He was in the same band. He was in the band.
Okay. At Wagner?
At Wagner, okay. Yes.
And that's how the two first met.
Right.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time that you met him? Like she introduced him? Did she, or maybe she say, "Hey, I met this guy," and
we would talk about it first. Yeah, we would talk about it first, and then during that first summer, he was also in a local orchestra that played like outdoor free concerts. Mm-hmm. And she'd say, "Why don't you come?" You know, so I go and I bring my boyfriend, and it was nice. It was a nice evening out. You know, if you could deal with the mosquitoes, it was fine.
So was this a situation where you also had a young man in your life at the time as well, so you could like double date, or?
Yes, but we never did. We never double dated. Yeah.
And I have to ask, looking back now, any particular reason?
I don't know. I never really thought about it.
Okay, that's fine. So how much? So when was this? They met when both were like 19 years old or 20. What would you say?
Yeah, first year in college. Yeah,
19,
definitely.
Okay.
But they didn't date right away. They dated like maybe second year, third year.
Okay. All right. So it took a little time.
Yeah, she had another boyfriend, and
okay.
He joined the Navy, and they just grew apart, and then
what happens?
Yeah, what happens happens, happens, right?
Right, and it sounds to me, being that she was Sylvia's into music, this guy is into music. That's really a way that people can bond, not just men and women, but men and men, women and women. So you share that, that can go a long way.
Exactly.
All right, so it makes all the sense in the world. And everybody should know his name is out there. We're not going out of school here, but we're just going to mention his first name just to make this conversation easier. His name is Charles. And was he from Staten Island as well? Do you know?
Yes.
He was.
That I know of, yeah. He lived there. He lived on the island.
Okay.
At home with his parents.
Okay, and of course, up until the time that she disappeared, how many times, I realize this is 50 years ago, just do the best you can. How many times were you around him, during that time? How many times did you talk to him, and what were your impressions of him?
He was kind of shy, around me and around my boyfriend.
Okay.
And I guess, that's okay too.
Right.
You don't have to jump off a table and do tricks.
Okay. Right. So he's kind of shy. Did you think that he and Sylvia were a good match?
I don't know. Thinking back, then yes. Thinking back though, I don't know if two shy people.
Yeah.
How do you get on? Somebody's got to take the reins.
I think so. I think, Mary, that you bring up a good point. Once again, I didn't know either of these people. Very well may be. It had a great relationship. But I just in general, as an adult, now I agree with you. I think, even though I've been single most of my life, but I think that, the girlfriends that I've had in my life, I'm a little bit of an introvert. I would say for the most part, they were extroverts.
Yeah.
Maybe you kind of need that. Yeah. I think that's interesting. Okay. So both kind of introverted, shy, but both into music, going to the same school. We know that's how a lot of people meet and get married and are happy their entire lives. So nothing unusual necessarily about this at all. What about their engagement? They were engaged, I guess, at the time. Were you surprised by that? How did you find out about it?
She said, guess what? He's proposed to me. And I said, and? She says, I said yes.
Wow.
So then her parents arranged an engagement party.
And did she go missing before that engagement party or after?
Missing after the engagement party.
She went missing after the engagement party. Okay. Did that engagement happen? Of course, she went missing in September of 1975. That
was during that summer.
It was during the summer.
I believe it was during that summer. Yeah.
Wow.
I think the Advance posted an engagement announcement, so that's probably available.
Okay. So they were engaged, let's just say 3 or 4 months before she went missing. Something like that.
Right.
Something like that. Okay.
Right.
As we know, once again, we're all adults here. You think she was happy about it? Or, sometimes, of course, most of the time, even today, men do the proposing, and sometimes women only say yes because they don't want to make the guy feel bad, and maybe they back out later. Do you think this was a genuine yes on Sylvia's part?
Yeah, I think so. She was all excited, and caught up in the I'm going to be a bride type of a deal.
Yeah.
I wasn't that way myself. We just went off to the justice of the peace and got married.
Oh, that's how you did it? Oh, that's how you did it, Mary? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that sometimes is a lot easier and a lot simpler and a lot cheaper. Right?
Yes. Well, I had seen relationships break up over wedding plans.
Yep. True.
And I said, well,
true.
I won't curse, but, BS, that's not for me. So.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so but with Sylvia, Charles proposes. She says yes. She seemingly really likes him, wants to spend her life with him. And then her family holds an engagement party, and this happened before her disappearance.
Yes.
Do you remember if they actually had a date picked out? Was it going to be later in 75 or 76? 76? Sometimes people, want to get a particular venue.
It was going to be in 76. It was going to be in 76, and there was, to my knowledge, there was no date planned yet.
Okay. All right.
Because at the engagement party, everybody said, "Well, when is this going to happen?"
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So.
Okay, and I have to ask you this as well. Of course, we've asked your impression of Charles. Did you ever get a feeling, of course, before her disappearance, about Charles, the way her family viewed him? Would you think they thought he was a good match for their daughter? That this was something positive?
They thought he was that she would be marrying up, so to speak.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You know where I'm going with that. Like, she would improve her station in life if they got married.
Okay, so she's Charles comes from a family, maybe of means and wealth, things like that, something along.
Yeah, they lived in a fairly affluent neighborhood, I think.
Okay. How do you think Sylvia would have adapted going into that? I mean, I know that's maybe, but men too, you go from one part of your life into another part, and suddenly you're in a different part of town. How do you think that Sylvia would have adapted to that? Because a lot of people, don't like that stuff. Too much attention to things.
Yeah, I get where you're going with this, but I don't know. She adapted pretty well to most situations.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And
marriage in general, getting married is a whole new experience.
Right.
Especially living with somebody that you really didn't live with before. Right. And you know them for a couple of years, but you don't know them, their whole life.
That's right.
It's something that you really have to get used to, and you have to stick with it if you want it to work. Yeah. Okay. I'm speaking from my own situation too,
Yeah, and the listeners know that I've never been married or anything, so I can't speak to any of that. And in fact, it's come up before marriage. You may not know this, but of course we got into married couples and everything, and I always make sure everybody understands that I'm not going to try to judge people's marriages and everything, because I've never been married. I don't know what it takes to stay together. Yeah. So I really, really, really try to stay away from that. Okay.
A lot of compromise.
Yes, yeah. There's that C word, Mary, that I don't do that very well. Did Sylvia still have like at least one more year of school?
No, we were both
graduated. Okay. And so was she working at the time? What was she doing for money? I guess she was still living at home, but for money, career, what was she doing?
Well, yeah, you're going to laugh at this. During college, we couldn't find jobs, that we wanted to do.
Okay.
So one year, my dad purchased an old Lambretta motor scooter that had a freezer attachment on it. And we went into like a little business. We drove around with a yellow and white canopy over the top. This was a 3-wheel motor scooter.
Uh-huh.
And the freezer attachment was in the back, and that's how we made a big chunk of money, being our own bosses and not having to give money back to, like, Good Humor Man, that kind of thing. We could buy our ice cream anywhere. And we did that one summer. We both got our college tuition paid.
Oh, my goodness. So
that following year, yeah.
So you would go, so you'd be just driving around, stop at people in the street, you'd be selling ice cream? That's what it would be?
Yeah. I mean, we would go past certain locations where we knew at a certain time, maybe the kids were at the baseball, play the Little League or something, and, we'd make a killing there. And then we'd drive past construction sites at lunchtime and we'd sell ice cream to all the construction workers. And
yeah, being two young women could not have hurt your chances there, Mary. Right?
Yeah, fun. It was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And the problem was we needed a motorcycle license.
Oh.
So we both had our permits, and we both could drive this thing, but we just never got the license because every time I went down to get the test, the test say was, "What is this?" I'm like, "This is what I'm here for. It's my motorcycle test." "Oh, I don't have time for that today. You'll have to reschedule." Well, in the summertime, everybody's taking their driving test.
Yeah, especially motorcycles.
Exactly. So then, okay, make another appointment 3 to 4 weeks later. Make another appointment. I went down. I had to get a licensed motorcycle driver to escort me there because I couldn't drive up without him, not being a licensed driver. And I paid some guy to show up, and he didn't show up. My bad, because I paid him up front. It wasn't a lot of money, $20, show up this time, this location, and we'll be good. And anyway, and then the next time I got the owner of a motorcycle shop to come with me because he thought it was cool, the machine itself.
Yeah.
And he shows up. My dad had to have the inspector drive in his car, and the inspector says, "Okay, I'm going to toot the horn once. That means you can proceed when the traffic is clear." Okay. So I hear the horn toot, and I proceed to pull out into traffic. Then I hear toot, 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 toot. I'm like, what the heck is going on? They didn't tell me about that many toots.
Yeah.
And the other guy comes running up the street. He says, "You're going to have to reschedule it again." I'm like, "Why now?" He says, "Well, looks like your father forgot to get his car inspected, and the inspector won't drive in an uninspected vehicle."
Oh, my goodness. What a comedy of errors.
It was. And then, like, the following week, we get pulled over by the police, and they're like, "You need a motorcycle license to drive that." I said, "Yes, I know. I have a helmet on it. License is in the back. It's in a lock box in the back. You want to see it? No problem." So they said, "Oh, no, as long as you know that that's what you need." And I also needed a certificate from the health department to distribute food, basically. And I had all the things. I just didn't have the license. I could drive the thing better than the guy from the motorcycle shop because he had no idea what it was.
So you would so I understand this. So you would go, for example, get ice cream, like actual store, put it in this freezer that I guess somehow worked off the engine of this scooter, and then you'd add a percentage onto the top of that, and then sell it sell it at the playgrounds and work sites.
Right.
Wow.
Right. It was fun.
I can tell.
And the killer was the good humor man was looking daggers at us because we'd make it into some of the neighborhoods before him. That means he didn't get any sales.
Right.
And the Mr. Softy truck, those things. We were freelance. We didn't have to stick to a certain route.
Yeah.
So then the other guys started getting there before us. So I said, "Okay, we got to make sure these kids wait for us." So I went to the confectionery distribution center, and I bought bubble gum, lollipops, all sorts of confectionery, sugary stuff. And I would mark like every 100 pieces with a big X. And if a bunch of kids were there, I'd throw a bunch of candy out, and I'm like, whoever gets the X gets theirs for free. So they would wait for us. They got free candy, and then they might also get an opportunity to get a free ice cream.
You were too. This is interesting, considering just a few minutes ago you said that Sylvia was kind of shy.
Right. I was the voice.
You were the voice. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
So it was fun.
that does sound like fun. Driving around
fun.
in this, but you only got to do that for that one summer. Was that it?
Yeah, because what happened was it broke down. The parts had to come from Italy, and we missed the rest of the summer. And then my dad lost interest in registering it and everything else. We paid him too back each week for the use of it, like a rental.
Yeah.
And anyway, he ended up selling it to I think a Little League field, and they just parked it there because it was the freezer attachment is what was the most important.
Yeah, that's the most valuable part, I guess.
Yeah,
okay.
and I'd hear the garage door open in the middle of the night, and I'm like, Dad, you're robbing my stuff again.
He was going to get some ice cream.
Yeah, he was out there getting himself a sundae or something.
Okay. All right, so we know how the summer of 1975 was spent, and everybody should know I'd not heard any of this until all of you heard it here on this recording. So that's fascinating. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the year before that, we couldn't find summer jobs, so we decided my parents needed the inside of the house painted, the bedrooms and the hallways and the living room. So Sylvia and I did that, and they paid us. And then friends of my mother's like, oh, well, how much would you charge? And we would take down the drapes, we'd send them to the dry cleaners, we'd do all of that, and we made enough money for that next semester.
I don't know. The ice cream job sounds like a lot more fun to me.
Oh, it was. It was.
Okay.
Sylvia liked the nitty-gritty work. She liked cutting in around the windows and the doors, and I just like to slap the paint on and roll it in.
But maybe one thing regarding this work is being that you were driving this scooter around and everything else, certainly you both became very familiar with the area, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so being that we're gonna get to the disappearance here in a couple minutes, would you say that you drove that scooter around the area where the disappearance occurred, like in the movie area that we're eventually going to talk about?
No, not at all. We kind of stayed close to either her house or my house, or like the Little League field that was about the furthest out, and the other section was more commercial and a lot more traffic.
Yeah,
and
dangerous.
It was all open. The machine was some 3-wheeled motor scooter.
Yeah. All right. Just wanted to make sure here.
Okay.
Because when we get to this and understanding the area. Okay. So it sounds to me, just some questions before we get into the day of the disappearance. It sounds to me like 1975 was a pretty good year for Sylvia. She graduates college. She has this cool job during the summer. She's engaged. She's getting to hang out with you. Sounds like it was a pretty good year for her.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay.
But, for both of us. Yeah.
But I still have to ask you, you ever see her be depressed, anxiety? After the engagement, did she ever voice any concerns about getting married? I have to ask.
No. We never really got into anything like that. I mean, life, she wanted to go on and do things in biology.
That was her major?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
and I should probably ask you about that. Being that she graduated, was she going to go for a master's or whatever you do with a biology degree? Was she taking any interviews or what? Yeah.
She wanted to, but she like I did. We wanted to take a little time off. You going from grammar school all the way up and through college and not really have a break. Yeah. I was going to be a teacher.
Okay.
And I went on a couple of interviews and got shut down because, first of all, I was brand new, didn't have any experience other than student teaching. Yeah. And I would go to the parochial schools because it was a little bit easier, but they were paying like $5,500 a year.
Yeah, they don't pay enough. Yeah, pay a lot.
They didn't pay enough. Right. And if I got into the New York City school system, I could end up in a neighborhood that I wouldn't even want to drive through.
Right.
So there was a lot of disappointment for me then, and for Sylvia, she just wanted to keep going.
Okay. But to your knowledge, she'd not taken any interviews. Like I said, I don't know what you do.
No.
I know people go for biology. I wasn't much into the sciences, but I don't. But to your knowledge, she hadn't taken any interviews or wasn't planning on furthering her education. Maybe a little bit up in the air.
Right.
Okay.
I think it was all the wedding plans that were going to be taking over her life after that.
Right. Okay. And what about? Do you know anything about Charles? He had graduated that year as well. Were they in the same class?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe they were.
All right. Once again, if you don't know, that's fine, Mary. But I'll just ask you: do you know what his future plans were? Music, or did he also get a degree in something else? Do you even know? Any idea?
You know what? I really have no clue.
Okay, that's fine. When was the last time that you saw or spoke to Sylvia before she went missing?
That afternoon.
Tell them about it. What was the conversation? You saw her. What can you say about it?
Well, she had a date. I had a date that night. We went shopping at the mall. Get a new nail polish, whatever.
Yeah.
And got to get home, got to get ready. We're going out, and mine ended up canceling. My date ended up canceling. He had to work, and I stayed home. So that evening, I guess it was about between 9 and 10, he comes driving up my street, and he had a very distinctive car. And
when you say he, who do you mean?
Charles.
Charles. Okay, just want to make sure. Because you just mentioned the guy you were supposed to be going on. I thought you might meant him. Just wanted to make sure. Okay. So Charles comes up your street.
Right, and I still lived at home, and it was late summer, not quite fall yet, and I was hanging out in front of the house with a few neighbors, and I thought he was pulling up with her after the movies.
Right.
And it was only him. And I said, "Oh, well, where's Sylvia?" And he said that they had a fight, and she got out of the car over near the movie theater, and could I please go over and pick her up, because he didn't want her waiting for the bus that late at night. And it, 10 o'clock, say. And I said, "Well, I can't go anywhere. My parents are so strict. If I'm not out on a date, I got to ask permission." And I'm 22 years old. That's how strict they were.
Okay, all right.
So I went in the house, and my dad said, "You're not going anywhere by yourself." He says, "I'll drive you, look." So I said, "Okay." So about 10 minutes after he pulled away, we did. And he didn't go in the direction that we were going, and I don't know where he went, So we went to the location, and we cruised all the bus stops in the area, just thinking maybe she walked north, walked south, whatever. Because the mall at that point is closed, so she's not in the mall. And no Sylvia. So my dad and I went home.
All right, so I have to ask you before we go too much further into this. When he pulled up, he's by himself. You're hanging out there. Is it your impression that he was coming to your house? He was going. I mean, he just happens to pull up, and you're there. I'm believing you. I'm not disputing that. Do you think he was planning to stop? He surely could not have known you were right outside. Do you think he was going to stop and go up to your front door? In retrospect, what do you think?
Yeah, that would have been a possibility. Okay. Yeah, but I guess because I was out in the front of the house, it could have been that he just happened to stop.
Okay.
I don't really, I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. And well, I should ask you, where he was living? Maybe he was still living at home at the time as well. Did he live near where you did?
No, he lived totally on the opposite side of Staten Island.
All right, so he couldn't have been heading home and just happened upon you.
Right. It's not like he was on his way home, right?
Okay. Did he say when he stopped? Maybe could he have been curious? Maybe he thought that Sylvia went to your place. Do you think that's a possibility?
Given the time frame that he said all of this occurred,
yes,
that would not have been possible.
Okay. He would have driven to your place before she would have been able, for example, to walk.
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, that was.
Did he say what happened?
Right.
Did he say what happened?
He just said we had a fight, and she got mad, and she got out of the car, and she's waiting for the bus to go home. So
he didn't say what the argument was about.
No, and I didn't even think to ask. All I wanted to do was protect my friend. Oh my goodness, she's out there by herself.
Right.
The buses don't run constantly like they do during the day. Mm-hmm. So, she could have been waiting there for a half an hour to an hour.
Did he give you the impression, once again, this is very important, being that you saw him right after this happened, did he give you the impression that he actually saw her standing at the bus stop? Is that why he said it? Or what did you think when he said that?
I thought, he didn't actually say it, but he did say, look, I don't want her taking the bus home.
Okay.
And could you go pick her up?
Okay. Okay,
So
so it may be, once again, this is just, we don't do a lot of theorizing as far as what caused disappearances, but we can theorize here. Maybe he's thinking, well, she's mad at me. She's standing at the bus stop. I can't pick her up, but I don't want her taking the bus home. So I'm going to have to try to figure out another way that she can get home safely. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That would be logical. Yes.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So he stops there, doesn't say why they argued, but even you admit maybe, that wasn't the first thing on your mind at that point, but he doesn't say anything. He just says they had an argument. I guess they did go to the movie. Did you get the idea that this happened after the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
But I have no idea if they actually went to the movie.
All right. And we don't know what movie this is. Of course, 1975, some of us, I'd have to look and see what movies were in the theater at the time. I've not done that yet. But,
yeah.
All right, so do you think they went to dinner before, or what? Do you remember what their plans actually were?
No, I really don't. Okay. He was coming to her home about 6, so it could have been for a quick bite and then
sure
to the movie.
Sure. Sure, I agree with you. There's time in there, especially if it's not a long drive, and we'll get into the distances here in a moment. But he stops. You think it was around 9 o'clock that night? You see him at about 9.
Between 9 and 10, because I know it was close enough to 10 o'clock that my parents weren't letting me out by myself.
Okay, you remember what your curfew was, and maybe 10. It was getting toward the limit. Okay, that still sounds reasonable to me. All right, so she says she's at the bus stop. I don't want her going home on the bus, and so you and your father go
right,
and you try to. Did he specifically say what bus stop it was?
No, but when he said right after the movies they had a fight, I just looked over near where the movies was, and right across the way is the Staten Island Mall, and then there was another mini mall, and then down further there was like a Kmart. So it was a big area that there were several bus stops.
All right, so he didn't once again, just as an example, he didn't say she's at the bus stop near the intersection of Elm and First Street.
Yeah, nothing.
He just left it up. She's at the bus stop.
Right. She's taking the bus home.
She's taking the bus home. Okay. So you go out looking for her. You ride around, and of course she's still missing. You don't find her. How long did you stay out that night?
Yeah, I would say in that location about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Because we were going slow, driving through parking lots to make sure, we didn't see her somewhere else. And then we get home, and I said, do I call her parents? Do I tell them what just happened, or not worry them because she might even be home already?
Right.
If we miss the bus,
right,
it's a possibility. So I did call her parents' house at around 11 p.m. and her mother answered, and I said, I need to talk to Sylvia. I made it like I was having an issue.
Yeah, good one. That was probably.
And she said, she's out with Charles this evening. I said, oh, that's right. I said, but you know what? It's really, really important. I don't care what time she gets home. I'll have the phone in my bed with me. We had one phone in the house, and it had a really long cord.
Okay. Okay.
And if she calls, it's not going to disturb the house,
Okay.
So please have her call me right away. And then by like 7 a.m., Sylvia doesn't come home, and her mother calls me and said, what's going on? She never came home.
All right, and I guess what we're also saying here is that Charles never went over to her house.
Absolutely not.
All right, because if you'd have called at 11 and said that, she would have said, well, Charles was already here like an hour ago and saying that, that Sylvia they had gotten into an argument and she ran off. But she didn't. Her mother didn't say that. No,
as a matter of fact, to my knowledge,
yeah,
he never appeared at their house.
Okay.
Even weeks later.
Okay. So let's now go through, and I'm going to do a map video everybody should know for the Unfound YouTube channel, kind of mapping this all out so everybody can understand. And we'll start here. How far is it, just driving terms, we don't have to get into miles necessarily, but just in driving terms, how far is it from, let's say, the movie theater to where you lived at the time?
I would, by car, I would say it would be about a 10-minute ride.
All right, so 10 minutes. How far is it from where Sylvia lived at the time to the movie place?
Maybe about 12 minutes.
All right, so a little farther.
A little bit further.
A little farther.
Right.
And once again, being that you are familiar with the area, I am not, most of the listeners are not. Would somebody driving from the movie theater to her house have to pass your house to get to her house?
Not directly, no.
No.
You'd have to take a turn before you got there.
All right, so if you're driving, once again, back in 1975 terms, if you're driving from where the movie theater is or was to where Sylvia lived, you'd have to take a little bit of a detour to go where you lived.
Yes.
All right. So being that Charles just shows up at your place, he couldn't have been heading to her house. He must have specifically been going to your place, being that he wasn't on the route to her house.
Right.
Okay. Do you think there would have been any other reason? Could he have been, of course he brought up the bus stop. Could he have been driving through that area to see if Sylvia was walking on the sidewalk, anything like that?
Between the movie theater and where I lived, there were no sidewalks.
Oh, okay.
It was a 2-lane road. Both, 2 lanes going one way, 2 lanes going the other.
All right.
A lot of stores. She would have to pass the Fresh Kills landfill if she was walking.
Okay.
And that would have been a long walk.
Okay.
Especially if you're out on a date, you're not wearing your sneakers.
Right. Good point.
And I do not believe that she walked. She could have taken the bus north, and that would have brought her over towards where the colleges were.
Yeah.
And south. If she had taken the bus south, that would have brought her home.
Okay. So and once again, you just stated a couple minutes ago that the drive from, because we have, let's say she went to the bus stop. The bus doesn't come along. She's going to walk home. 12 minutes driving. So let's just, of course, this is city streets and everything. Let's say that's 5 miles. That's going to be maybe a 2-hour walk.
Oh, easy.
Easy to go from the movie theater to where she was living at home.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So he comes by, says what happened, says she's at the bus stop. You go look for her. You can't find her. Obviously, you come home. You call her house at 11 o'clock. Her mother doesn't know anything that's going on yet. And, of course, you kind of disguised it. And then it's the next morning where everybody starts figuring out, oh, yeah, she's missing. What happens next, Mary?
Well, I go down to her parents' house, and I pick up her mom. And then we went up to the college because it was beginning of September, and people were starting to come back to school. Mm-hmm. So I said if she did take the bus north, maybe she ended up at Wagner College and went right up to the sorority floor because she would find friends there, a place to hang out, to cool off. I did on my own go to our local hangouts, like if we had a fight with a boyfriend or parents or whatever, sometimes we'd end up down at the beach and just sit on the beach and contemplate, And I went to the locations where we would do that, and nobody. So then when I picked up her mom, we went up there, and then I took her mother home when we found no one. Our mother got some stuff together, and she went down to the police precinct.
Okay.
And with her husband, and they were going to report her missing. And they said, "Oh, sorry, she's got to be missing for 48 hours before we'll even
that's crap.
do it."
That sucks.
Yeah, exactly. So they said, when you come down the next time, ask, I don't remember the sergeant's name, but, ask for Sergeant so-and-so, and bring with you a list of what she was wearing, bring with you a current photos that you may have of her, and like a timeline of when this could have happened. And 2 days later, she went down with her husband, and they said, "Oh, sorry, so Sergeant so-and-so, he's not here. He's on vacation." And she says, "Well, I came to report my daughter. She's missing." And she says, "Last time we were here, someone told us, this is what we have to bring. So we're here." And they said, "How old was she?" And she, they tell her she's 22 years old. They had an attitude right away that, heck, she's an adult.
Yeah.
She probably just took off. And that wasn't Sylvia.
Yeah.
She wouldn't do something like that. So, if any place she would end up, it would have been my house. Or the sorority floor. And that would be it. So she gave them my name, my address, and they said, "It'll take a few days, but the detectives will contact you." Now, weeks had gone by, like, say, 2 weeks. Nobody comes to visit me. No detective calls, nothing.
Yeah. I believe
and I'm like, this isn't right. So next door to where my parents lived happened to be an assistant district attorney lived there. And I said, I want to go over and talk to him. But I didn't want to go, well, I'm 22, but I'm still a kid in their minds,
Yeah.
And I asked my dad to accompany me. And we went over and we said basically what happened to him. And why didn't a detective contact me yet? Because I was like maybe key in this timeline. So he said he would get into it. And nothing happened. So unbeknownst to me, Sylvia's mother hired a private detective.
How soon?
I would say within the first 3 weeks.
Okay.
And she had me followed. I never asked her if she had him followed, but I'm assuming that.
Wait a minute. So Sylvia's mother hired a private investigator, and the private investigator followed you?
Yeah.
How did you end up finding that out?
She told me.
Oh,
years later.
Wow.
Her mother told me
that
goodness. She had hired a private detective, and she would never tell my mother what the private detective found out. I was 22 years old. I had a boyfriend. We were going to get married.
Oh boy.
So
I mean, I guess that is a darkly humorous part of this, but yeah. So
right,
I mean,
exactly.
So do you really believe that her mother was suspicious that you actually really did know where Sylvia is?
Till the day she died.
Really?
Yes.
She thought you withheld something from her?
Yes. As a matter of fact, her brother came to visit me in 2013. And he pulled in the driveway, and now I hadn't seen him since he was out of the Navy. He went into the Navy when he turned 18. And before he left for the Navy, at that point, I'm married, and I had him over for dinner. And he kept looking out the window and looking out the backyard and everything. I said, Joey, is somebody supposed to be here? Are you looking for someone? Are they supposed to meet you here? So he says, no, I'm looking for my sister. When is she coming? And I'm like, oh, Joe, I've told your mother hundreds of times. I have no idea.
Why? It seemed like you had a pretty good relationship with her parents. Why would they ever think that you would do something like that?
I don't know. Maybe that I, kept her confidence, and I promised I would never say anything. But, one day, out of the clear blue, the phone would ring. There was no caller ID yet. Mm-hmm. And I'd answer the phone and be her mom. And she said, next time you see Sylvia, could you tell her that I want her to come and pick up the china? I want to leave my china to her. She says, I don't want Joseph's fiancee to get it. And I'd be like, how many times can I tell her?
Yeah.
But if that's what kept her going, I said, look, I've told you before, I have no clue. Okay. And, she actually, because I got married the way I got married, I didn't even have my parents there. Because they were thinking, oh, you're too young. You should wait till you're 30 to get married. I'm like, what? Anyway.
Oh, my goodness.
She was at my wedding, Sylvia's mother. Because she says if any time Sylvia would be turning up, it would be to be my maid of honor.
Oh, okay. This private investigator, of course, you didn't know that, I guess it's a he. Following you, did this private investigator ever speak to you? One-on-one?
No. I had no clue who that man was.
Okay.
Whatever.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get back. So let's get back maybe closer back to the time of the disappearance. So the report is filed. Seems police do nothing. Any searches ever done? A week later, 3 weeks later, a year later. What can you say about that?
The police dropped the ball. That's what I could say about that.
Okay.
Because they figured she's 22 years old, she's an adult. Get over it, lady. She wanted to be free. That's my interpretation of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. it wasn't until like 2011, 2012 that I was even contacted by anybody from the New York Police Department, and it was the cold case squad.
Okay.
Because at that point, Sylvia's, I don't remember whether it was her mother, that both of them were gone at that point. And Joey couldn't settle the parents' estate because Sylvia was still in the will.
Yeah.
And she had never been declared legally dead.
Right. That's a problem.
That was a big problem. And he's paying for his house, and he's paying for the parents' home, taxes and upkeep. And if you're not there in the wintertime, New York City has an ordinance. If you don't shovel your sidewalk within 24 hours of the snowfall, you're going to get a fine, and you get a fine if the grass is higher than the fence and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So,
okay.
Yeah. The cold case detective, I don't remember his last name, but his first name was Patrick, and he wanted me to come into New York City. Now, I lived where I'm living now.
Mm-hmm. Not convenient.
And I was taking care of my husband, who had kidney failure and severe diabetes and blindness. So I said, well, I do home dialysis, so I have to be home every night. So if you could send a car for me, that'd be great. I'd be glad to do it. I said, but I can't. First of all, we were, scraping the money together just to pay bills at this point.
Right.
And to drive into Manhattan to give a deposition, it would cost me $100. So I said, send a car for me. And he says, I think that could be arranged. And then he called me back a couple of days later, and he says, no, it's not in the budget. We can't do that. I said, well, you've got my deposition over the phone. Then,
it's not in my budget either.
Exactly. So, anyway, I don't know whether they thought I was giving them a line of BS about not being able to get there, but, either here nor there. And
I guess going to the search question, to your knowledge, in the last 50 years, has the area around the movie place, any of the bus stops, any search has ever been done?
Totally changed. And every time there was a body found on Staten Island, her mother would be at the coroner's office with dental records. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it was all very, very, very sad.
Okay. But once again, I realized I'm being very specific. No specific searches in the last 50 years for Sylvia Lwowski in that area?
No.
Okay. Let's now talk about this. Being that the private investigator followed you around, do you know anything about the private investigator at the time following Charles around?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I don't know, but I can only assume that if she really had her mind set that I knew where her daughter was because we were so close, that maybe that's where she stopped. I don't know, but if that was me and my kid was missing, I'd pull out all the stops to try to locate them.
All right. Okay. Now, once again, let's just stick to the weeks and maybe a few months after the disappearance. So going back to 1975. Of course, Charles stopped at your place that night. I don't know if he stopped there. Was he planning to stop there? We don't know. But exactly. He was driving past your house, and you just happened to be outside. Fine.
Right.
In the weeks after that, or months, did he ever call you? Did he ever stop by to ask about Sylvia to you?
No.
Did you
I called him.
You called him, and did he pick up?
He would pick up, and he would be very curt and say, "Stop calling me. I really don't care. It's over. It's done." And
is that what he said? Once again, we need to be. That's what he said. I realize it's 50 years ago, but you would say that when you would talk to him, it sounded to you, once again, your opinion, that he'd already kind of put Sylvia's disappearance in the past.
Yes. Exactly that.
Your opinion. Okay.
And
when was
stop calling my house, you're upsetting my mother every time you call. I'm like, well,
okay.
I don't think Sylvia's mother did that, though. She was a little on the shy side at that point.
Okay.
And also, when I think about it, coming from where she originally came from, she would not be too happy with the police to begin with. She was in Germany.
Right. Yeah, West Germany, which
at
least at the time there was still two countries. West Germany, yeah. Okay. All right, so once again, Charles, you talked to him. Of course, it seems like that night, he's like, hey, can you help Sylvia out? She's at this bus stop. But then weeks later, when you're asking, of course, he still knows she's missing. You still know she's missing. Her family still knows she's missing. A lot of other people know that she's missing. You call him, and he's like, no, I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
Okay. When was the last time you ever spoke to Charles, period?
December of 75.
So 50
it was around Christmas.
Right. Because we're doing this interview, everybody should know on December 28th of 2025. So 50 years ago is the last time you spoke to Charles.
Yep.
Even though he was your best friend's fiancé at the time and everything else. I'm not blaming you. I'm just making sure we
Well, after our last conversation, I kind of cussed him out too, because how can you be like that? Mm-hmm. You guys were going to get married. And it's done.
Yeah. Right.
I wanted to tell him that, things that had happened at her parents' house, and why the hell didn't you go and pick up your bicycle? He had a beautiful English racer. Mm-hmm. And all the engagement party gifts were at her house.
Right.
So, nothing and no phone call?
To your knowledge, once again, I realize this would be hearsay and everything else. Do you know if Charles ever went to Sylvia's parents' house to talk to them about all this? Of course, it seems like her mother was suspicious of you, so I don't know how much she's going to tell you anyway. But Do you know any knowledge of Charles talking to her parents or even her brother about Sylvia's disappearance?
To my recollection, Zippo. Nada. Zilch. Nothing.
Okay.
Never went back.
Okay.
He did get interviewed by the police once. And that was it.
All right. Now, all right, so let me see where I want to go. All right, so we'll come back to that. Just the area. Let's say that bus doesn't come and she has to walk home. We understand that it's at night. We understand that there's no sidewalk and everything else. But how dangerous would that walk have been? Of course, I usually discount the idea that some serial killer comes along and picks women up, even though we know it has happened in history. Is there maybe a shortcut that she could have taken, walking home that could have, been a problem? You know the area, I don't.
Yeah, the shortcut that she might have taken would have been ridiculous, because the Fresh Kills landfill takes up miles. Mm-hmm. And right after the mall locations is open swamp water, a dump. There's no way that she, in her right mind, would have even attempted to walk that way.
Okay. All right. So I guess what we're saying is it's theoretically possible, but somebody would be really stupid to try to attempt to do that.
Right.
Okay. All right. So once again, I'm going to try to do a map video for this, even though you've already stated the area's changed quite a bit since 1975.
Yeah, now the dump is closed and it's a park.
Okay. And the movie theater that, and we're going to get into that in a moment, but this movie theater, is it still there?
No, the movie theater closed down. It turned into a Crazy Eddie's, and then I don't know what else. Just not. The building itself might be there, but nothing.
Okay. Maybe through Messenger, you can maybe put me on the right track as to the exact location it would be, after we're done or something, so I can explain the area. Since once again, I've never been there. All right, to your knowledge, any witnesses ever come forward over the past 50 years? Yeah, I saw a woman standing at a bus stop. Yes, I saw a woman walking, in the Staten Island area, and anything like that.
No.
That you've heard of?
No, I've never heard of anything.
Okay. All right. Now, there is a question about glasses. Her glasses. What can you say about that?
Well, she could see up close, but she couldn't see to drive, and she couldn't see to, walk without them. And if she threw her glasses at him, that's pretty strange.
All right. When did you find out that these glasses were still in his car?
That was when he talked to the police that he said that she threw her glasses at him.
All right. How did you find out about this from the police? I have to ask.
Her mother, I think, got a copy of the investigation.
Okay.
Portion of it.
Okay. So even that, once again, I'm not trying to put too fine of a point on this, but even though her mother had a private investigator following you around, she shared that with you.
Yes, yeah, it wasn't right away, but yeah, she did. It was after I was married, and I was like, what?
Okay. All right, so once again, this adds a little bit more to the story then, that they get in this argument, and he told the police in this police report that her mother had, that she told you about, that she got mad and allegedly threw her glasses onto like the dashboard or something in the car, and that's when Sylvia left his car.
Right.
Okay. All right, so these glasses, in your opinion, it's hard enough to walk at night in that area, and without her glasses, it would be way, way, way more difficult.
Oh, sure. Everything would have been more.
These were, we have to remember that she's 22, and more likely kids are going to be able to read, have eyes for reading, and can't see far, whereas, of course, you get old, maybe you can see far, but you can't see up close. So these glasses were for seeing far away, and they were left behind in his car.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to this. Now, going back to Charles, once again, looking back in retrospect, he says that she was at a bus stop, or go look at the bus stop, something along the lines. Is there any reason you think he didn't say, hey, she's at this bus stop, Mary, she's not listening to me, why don't you get in here with me, and, we'll go back there and try to coax her back into her car. She's not taking the bus home. He could have done that, right? And you would have gone with him, right?
I wouldn't have.
You wouldn't have?
I would not have, because I was not allowed out.
Oh, you weren't allowed out. Okay.
I had a really early curfew, and if I was going somewhere, like I did with my dad, I went in the house and we went.
Okay.
But the time that it took him to get to my house, say 10, 15 minutes, and then for me to leave, so half an hour went by. I mean, the bus could have come.
It could have. Sure. Yeah, and you go over there, she's not there, and you wouldn't know what happened.
Right.
That's a good point.
Do I go north, do I go south, or do I just go home and wait for a phone call? Because if she's that upset, she's going to be calling me.
Right.
And
okay.
That's why when I said to her, I didn't want to alert her parents right away, because it could have all just washed under the bridge already.
Yeah.
And everything would have been hunky-dory. But,
okay. To your knowledge, once again, as we know now, you've not spoken to Charles about this in 50 years. To your knowledge, did it ever get back to you through the grapevine? Did Charles ever offer up his own theory as to what happened to Sylvia?
Well, some word got back to me that he was being played the fool. She got away with a very expensive engagement ring, and for all he knows, that she could have hocked it and living a good life. And I'm thinking, why would you say that?
That once again, you didn't hear it directly from him, but that's something that came back to you through however.
Right.
Maybe it's just somebody, we don't know if he actually said that. For the record, we don't know if he's actually said that because you didn't hear it with your own ears. But that's something that's not a theory you created. Somebody passed that along to you.
Yes.
Okay. But to your knowledge, though, okay, so maybe that's a theory, something, she ran off and moved to California, nothing like that. Or
yeah, I mean, that's what he was implying, that she could go off and have a good life.
Okay. Do you think it's been, of course, her parents are deceased now, but do you think that after December of 1975, he had any ongoing communications with Sylvia's family, or did that stop in December just like it did with you?
It stopped at her disappearance.
Okay. Is it true, I've read somewhere in preparing for this interview today, once again, if you know about this, that's fine. If you don't, you can verify it or not verify it, but I have read somewhere that Charles was asked about all this and he lawyered up.
That I have no idea.
No idea. Okay.
Wow. That puts a different light on things.
Well, I don't know. Once again, for everybody out there, that's something that I've read. That doesn't mean it's true. All right? Could be just people just talking out there. But being that you've been living with this for 50 years, I'm wondering if you've ever heard that. And I guess you haven't.
No, I never did.
So this is not fact. I read it. I'm asking somebody who knows about all of this, and Mary is saying she doesn't know about it. I'm not presenting that as a fact, but I have to ask her about it. So we don't know anything about that. Do you, even general though, being that you got to see the paperwork and everything, do you get the idea that police thought Charles was helpful or not?
I didn't form an opinion about that, but I just feel that the police dropped the ball.
Okay.
Being that she was an adult and we're just going through the motions to appease our parents.
Okay. I have to ask this once again, just because it's in the work that I have to do. Do you think that Sylvia was having any cold feet about getting married to him? Do you think their relationship was going fine? Did you ever get the idea that something, was going on in their relationship? Anything like that? In retrospect, once again, as a 22-year-old, like I said, even though we're technically adults, we're still kids back then, but now, 50 years later.
Yeah. No, I really don't. Really haven't. No.
Okay. No. All right. No is fine. That's fine. I don't know any of these people. That's why I'm asking you. All right. So this is Charles. And we should know that Charles have looked him up. He eventually did get married, but not until many years later. And in the 1980s, and to my knowledge, he is still married here in 2025, has some kids, and that's all I really want to say about him. Let's go, though, in a different direction. This area of Staten Island, dangerous, crimes, any women around the time disappearing or getting murdered, or rapes, or walking around, would you have been afraid even without your curfew, walking around at night? Safe area, unsafe area?
In that location, very desolate. It goes from homes to a very desolate area, which was the Fresh Kills landfill, and then over a bridge, a small bridge, and then you're in the mall location, which was highly now mollified. I would use that word.
Mollified. That's funny. Okay. Okay. But back then, once again, in 1975 terms, if you had to walk from your house to the movie theater, I know it's not a short walk, but would you be afraid of doing that as a woman by yourself?
I would be, yeah, I could use the term, but I won't, but I'd be, having to go to the bathroom if I had to do that myself.
Okay. All right, so maybe that puts this in a different kind of mindset here. She jumps out of the car. She goes to the bus stop. Maybe the bus doesn't come. She goes, well, I have to get home somehow. Maybe she wants to walk and find a payphone. Maybe she just says, the heck with it. I'm going to walk it home and let, kind of cool down here on the September evening in New York, September night in New York. And maybe somebody does come along.
Right. And given her frame of mind, if she just had a fight with her boyfriend, she might have taken a ride from somebody. I don't know, but that's totally possible.
Okay. And once again, the way you remember it 50 years ago, let's say that, that she was at the bus stop, but she's like, I don't know when the next bus is coming. Is there somewhere else she could have walked? If your place is too far away, if her house is too far away, could she have walked? Did she have another friend who lived a lot closer to that?
No. And like I said, at this point, the mall is closed.
Yeah.
There's no place to duck in and hide out and even sit on a bench in the mall. Mm-hmm. And the other stores they were outdoor malls. You'd go from Corvettes into a McCrory's into a soda shop. But everything there at that point in time, at say 10 o'clock, is closing up.
Yeah.
Already closed.
That's right, and maybe most importantly, on top of everything else, we still don't know what this argument was about between Charles.
I have not a clue. You're right, absolutely not.
And you don't have any idea if he ever told the police what it was about.
No, I have no.
It could have been something that was. Of course, we know in relationships sometimes mountains are made out of molehills. You start pushing buttons.
It could have been over wedding plans. It could have been. Anything.
He's the one that said they had an argument, so we have to believe it.
Right.
Okay. Regarding anybody else over the years, of course, it's been 50 years. As I stated very early on, you have done some media appearances. That's how I was able to track you down for this interview today. Other people, maybe not family members of Sylvia, maybe other women or men who knew her, does her name come up over the years? Have you talked about Sylvia? What's been said?
During the month of September, I went and got my phone book out. No cell phones back then.
Yeah. Okay.
Got my phone book out, and I contacted girls that we were in grammar school together. Just on the off chance she might turn up someplace and they see her. And through the years, I've been contacted back by them. Hey, did they ever find Sylvia? And I said no. And this was like, I would say up until 5 years ago, and even my own family all knows about it, of course. And my brother lived in the duplex on the other side of her family. And he moved away, but it was like losing my best friend.
Yeah. Right.
Without the benefit of a funeral, without the benefit of closure, of
and
just
knowing
saying,
exactly what happened. Yeah.
Fine. Tell me you're living in Colorado. I don't care. Just that you're alive. Because one of the reasons I left my name the way I have it listed is because if she ever wanted to look me up.
All right.
After my mother died, it was 2001. We kept her phone number, her home phone number, on file and open, and we had it transferred to my dad's old business because in case that was the only number she knew.
Yeah.
Even when you get stupid hang-up calls, I would always say, gee, I wonder if that was her reaching out. You know, I there is no closure.
Yeah.
I commuted back and forth to Manhattan in one of my jobs, and I'd see, I don't know if you've ever been in Manhattan when the subway stops or Grand Central opens up and everybody comes off the trains. It's like ants crawling out of an anthill.
Huh.
And I would be on a bus and I would scan faces. I would constantly scan faces in hopes of maybe I would ever see her.
Yeah.
And my thoughts were like, if I do I slap her first and hug her second, or hug her first and then slap her? Because,
yes.
you know, I don't know, but that's how I felt. And I still do.
Right.
I felt like I disappointed her mother by not knowing. And, you know, that even her, I was on the commuter bus going into Manhattan, and I got into a conversation with a man that ended up living on her street.
Wow.
I said, oh, what was your address? And he said, and I said, oh, did you know the Lwowskis? And he said, oh, yeah. He says, said she never came back. And I said, yeah. He says, well, you know, she's got grandchildren. The mother, Sylvia's mother, has grandchildren that she hasn't even met. I said, what? That's the story she was telling neighbors.
Wow.
That my daughter took off, and I probably have grandchildren now, and I don't know what I did to deserve that kind of treatment. And, you know, I'm like, wow. I guess she made up these things to heal her heart.
What about her father? You haven't mentioned, what did he have to say about all this?
He was a very quiet man all the time. And whenever I would stop there, and I did frequently stop there, he would take one look at me, his eyes would tear up, and he would go upstairs. So I kind of stopped going because I didn't want to bring that feeling for him, you know?
So I guess what we're saying here is that although certainly we have to, I mean, any in-depth coverage of any disappearance, we have to talk about the person who last saw the missing person. In this case, it was Charles. If it was a convenience store clerk or anybody else, would analyze those people just as much. But it's clear that up until her parents died, they lived under the belief that Sylvia was out there alive somewhere.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. How did you, of course, this is how we came to know each other. When did you do your first media interview regarding Sylvia's disappearance, and how did that all come about? How did you become the spokesperson? I realize maybe your family has done some things, but you're, of course, not part of the family. How did you end up doing that?
Well, Joey was trying to solidify the disappearance, and because both parents were dead, at that point, he had no death certificate to prove that his sister wasn't around. Mm-hmm. And they couldn't close their estate. Yes. without it. And heck, that was in between 2011 and 2013. And that's when I talked to the cold case guy, detective. Mm-hmm. And that was it. And even when Joey came here to visit me, he was looking around when he came here. And I said, Joe, trust me, I don't know where she is. Hmm. I have my guess, but I don't know. Huh. I don't have an answer.
Okay. When you spoke to the this cold case person, it's getting like over 10 years ago now?
Yeah.
That's the last time you had a conversation with anybody in law enforcement?
Yes.
Okay. Did you get the idea that this person was looking at this maybe from a foul play point of view or a runaway point of view, suicide point of view? Did you get a feeling for that at all?
No. He, as a matter of fact, when I did speak to him, he says, your name doesn't even appear in any of the records.
But you didn't get a feel for that. You're talking to him. They weren't any leading questions. For example, like I've done today, because as some people have said, sometimes Ed, you sound like a prosecutor or a defense attorney sometimes when you're questioning guests.
Right.
So I guess what I'm asking you is, did he question you like I've questioned you today?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
And would you say that those questions, once again, did they go in a foul play direction, suicide direction, ran off direction, the way you remember it, understanding that it was over 10 years ago?
Yeah. He just kept saying, just state what you remember.
Okay.
And how did you feel about what you're telling me? And I said some pretty nasty things.
Okay.
About, the issue.
Okay.
Like the police dropping the ball. Where were you in 1975? That kind of stuff.
Okay. All right, let's get enough on that topic. Let's, how has this influenced you, Mary? I don't know if we've ever talked about, I don't know if you have kids or not, but how has this influenced your last 50 years of being, living with this, of course, getting married, having a job, having this best friend of yours who's here one day and gone the next? How has it influenced your life?
Well, immediately after, now, if at all possible, my parents were very strict, but they became more strict.
Wow.
To the fact that if I went somewhere, I would have to drag my mother with me. She did not want me to be alone. Or, even I'm still dating at that point, and I'm going to get married, and they vehemently did not want me to. And I'm like, well, my mother used to follow me around. I'm like, oh, there's her car again.
Mm-hmm.
And, actually, when I did get married and Sylvia's mother ended up at the courthouse, she said, what does your mother think? I said, well, this morning my mother just told me that she doesn't have a daughter. So what do you think? And she says, you know what? I'm going to go to your mother's house right after here. She says, and I'm going to tell her, look, you know where your daughter is. You know if she's alive or dead. I don't. And she did. It didn't change my mother that much. I mean, almost till the day she died, she hated him. But I couldn't change that. My mother was of Italian heritage. My father was not. the man I married was of Italian heritage, but he was from the wrong section of Italy. His heritage was from the wrong section of Italy.
Okay.
Versus my, like north and south.
Yeah.
My mother's family emigrated from Genoa.
Yeah.
His family was from Sicily, so he's no good.
Oh, my Sicilian. Yeah. Well, my mother was Italian too. So her family was from northern Italy. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I used to say it, and I would joke about it, but it was the truth. She just he's got to be connected into illegal things, and I'm like, no. I think after so many years, I would know. So I don't know. It did affect that immediate, and then my mom always asked me, "You think she's still on this earth?" And I had no idea. I'm like, my gut says no, but anything's possible.
Mary, do you have a website or a Facebook page? Like I said, I found you just from articles because I found your name and I think a newspaper article for some years ago. I was able to track you down on Facebook. But do you know if there's a website or Facebook page, anything like that set up for Sylvia's disappearance?
I think her brother did set one up. And there was also a web page. It was called Web Sleuths.
Yeah, websleuths.com. Yeah. There's an extensive thread there. There is.
And they contacted me.
Oh, they did. Okay.
They contacted me.
And in fact, I was going through, of course, there's like 5 different forums for Sylvia's disappearance. Yes, something that's that long, I have to admit. I was a little surprised. I'm not saying that in a bad way. But yeah, certainly there have been a lot of people over the years who have discussed Sylvia's disappearance. Not a lot of additional facts than what we covered today. In fact, none. No more than we've covered.
It just drops off.
Yeah.
It just dead, done.
Yeah. Yeah, people sometimes talk these disappearances out of themselves. It's sometimes unfortunately.
I'm still in contact with one of the ladies from Web Sleuths.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Through Facebook. And she even went to some of the news media. Mm-hmm. And that was, I guess mid-2000, maybe 2005, 2006. Mm-hmm. Could be earlier. But I don't remember exactly. But she had told me, she said she drew it all up and presented it to an investigative news program, and they just said not interested. I see. Guess there wasn't enough media coverage on it, and everybody back then said, why didn't Sylvia's mother and father go to the Advance? Why didn't they publicize this? And her mother said she couldn't, because if Sylvia did, in fact, just walk away and want to start a new life, she didn't want it to be a hindrance that she was an unstable person. Because, you do background checks on people, stuff comes up. And she did not want that to be. And I think a little bit of it that she didn't want the attention from the looky-loos. Yeah. Is that the right word that I'm looking at?
Yeah, could be. I mean, the thing, it's one of those tough things that, of course, you're not in the family, I'm not in the family, none of us out here are in the family. And it's, it's hard to put ourselves in their shoes, but, on the other hand, it's your daughter that's missing. But as you stated, it seems for decades later, maybe until the day she died, at least Sylvia's mother thought that she was out there. And so she's thinking, well, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to get a lot of media attention because of that, maybe.
Yeah, she didn't want to ruin her life.
Yeah.
If she had another life going on.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
I wouldn't have thought that way.
Most parents do not. Most parents do not. This is my work, 390 disappearances later. I can tell you most parents don't think of that, so not sure. Okay. Okay. Mary, do you have any final words before we complete this interview?
Yeah. Now I'm getting all choked up.
You're allowed.
I hope something comes of it. I hope we get closure one way or another.
Yeah. Okay.
I've lost touch with her brother. The number I have for him is no longer working. He was like my little brother that I didn't have, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We were always at each other's homes. I mean, even sometimes when her parents had to do something, her brother was with her and then he was with us, So, it's, when you contacted me, I was like, wow, this is 50 years ago. Does anybody even alive that knows about this?
Well, we're going to put it back in the spotlight. That's what I do.
Okay.
I just, we just try to cover disappearances one at a time here. There's no way in my lifetime that I'm going to get to all of them.
No.
But we try to, doesn't matter if it's 50 years ago or 5 years ago, I'm looking to talk to people. So.
Right. Well.
Yeah.
Thank God people like you exist.
I appreciate that. And Mary, I appreciate you being on this episode of Unfound. And that was my December 28th, 2025 interview with Mary, best friend of Sylvia Lwowski. I thank her for joining me and all of you on this episode. With Mary's help, I've been able to create a very accurate recreation of that night, despite the area changing quite a bit since 1975. Please find the video on Unfound's YouTube channel. Before I get into my summation, I need to include a point missed in the interview. During it, I didn't ask Mary what the conversation was between her father and herself as they rode from street to street looking for Sylvia. Did anything seem off? Did they believe what Charles told them at the time? What did Mary's father say about all this in the moment? So I asked Mary about this a couple days later. Her exact response. Actually, at the time, there was really no reason to doubt Charles. Nothing seemed off. It was almost like a knee-jerk reaction. My friend needed help, and we went. And that concludes Mary's response to my questions about that. I think this is important to consider. Sure, here in 2026, I'm sure all of you will have doubts about Charles's story. There is nothing wrong with that. You may be right, you may be wrong. But in the moment on that night, it's clear that nothing seemed odd to Mary and her father. And they believed Charles enough to ride around for hours looking for Sylvia. Okay, now for my summation. At this point, I shouldn't have to tell you, but I will anyway. This is certainly the man said type of disappearance. Charles said Sylvia ran off, but there is no proof of it. And really, that we still don't know why they argued only serves to make us suspicious that Sylvia didn't really run off. Yet, Unfound's own history with this specific type of disappearance, where somebody allegedly or actually leaves a car, is mixed. Remember Dwayne Thomas. His wife said he walked off from their car out in the middle of nowhere in Arizona. And frankly, I believe her. James Walker allegedly walked off from his friend's vehicle while they were inside a grocery store. I have to admit, here in 2026, I have come to believe that story, although I doubted it back in 2017. Keith Fetter certainly ran off while in a car with friends after leaving his ex-wife's house. Then, most notably because this disappearance has been resolved, Shanna Boydo, whose remains were found in 2025 not far from where she ran away from a car in which she was a passenger. No foul play is suspected. And this is one I got wrong. I did not believe the story the guy with her told when this occurred, when he said Shanna ran off. I now believe he was telling the truth. So seemingly, at least according to Unfound's history for this type of disappearance, we should be inclined to believe Charles. However, what have I said? Disappearances are about people, not circumstances. And what do you remember about all of those other preceding people? They all had issues. Dwayne Thomas was almost certainly an alcoholic. James Walker, addiction issues. Keith Fetter, psychological issues and was probably drunk the day he disappeared. Shanna Boydo, history of drug problems and was on the run from the law. Sylvia, of course, had no problems like any of these people did. And I think that matters, if only for the reason that people with drug, mental, and alcohol problems are surely more likely to make bizarre choices, including running off, compared to everyone else. Because it should be known that for all four of them, including Shanna's that is resolved, we still have no idea why any of them took off. What also should be stated, though, is Charles also had nothing in common with the witnesses in those other disappearances. As I remember it, all the people had problems very much like the people who went missing. By all accounts, Charles did not, just like Sylvia did not. No drugs, no alcohol, no mental problems. Yet still, he has never even hinted about what actually was the disagreement that night. Maybe it never happened, just for the sake of argument. And that's the program. I'm Ed Dunsel, and you've been listening to Unfound.